Welcome to Serious Coin. I'm Kelly Willis Green, and this is the podcast where we have rich conversations about wealth. Now, if you've listened before, you know that I follow things that I'm curious about. And something I've been curious about lately is why so many millionaires are moving to Dubai. Now, when I first heard about this trend a couple of years ago, I thought, Dubai? Really? And maybe that's your reaction. But in 2024, Dubai experienced the highest net inflow of millionaires of any place in the world. Something real is happening here. And in this episode, we explore why. What's really behind the numbers? Who's moving there? What's the draw? What are the trade-offs? And what does it say about what wealthy families truly value? To help me sort this out is my guest, Philippe Amarante. He's based in Dubai, and he's the managing partner at Henley Partners, where he advises wealthy families on where and how to take up residency in a foreign country. He has a front row seat on this surge of wealth moving into UAE. I know you'll enjoy this. Have a listen.
The fact is that, Dubai has been rising since decades. If you look back, the UAE as a country is now, I think, 54 years old. So it's quite a new country, and it is applying not only Dubai and the entire EU a pretty amazing spirit of innovation, trying to be a jurisdiction that is nimble, that's agile, and that can be home for everyone. There's actually quite some opportunities here. Number one, it's super safe. And if you look into some of the indexes, right, both Abu Dhabi and Dubai are ranked since years as the safest place in the world. The crime rates are minimal. The great stories that people will say, oh, you can leave your phones on the table in the cafeteria, maybe go wash your hands, come back, and, it's still a phone there. Maybe there are two phones, so, and I think, and then comes the leadership model that the UAE applies on from a government perspective, governance perspective, providing these innovative approaches towards legislation, regulation, and really sending out like a very deeply ingrained message. We are open for business. Yes. I think that resonated very, very well with these wealthy people who are coming from places that still maybe have not recovered from the pandemic, or if you look particularly into the UK, is still trying to find its sort of position post-Brexit. So you have on one side, I wouldn't call it depression, right? But maybe a little bit of a negative sentiment and maybe not the greatest, whatever positivity towards where do I build my business? Where do I raise my family? Where do I see next opportunities? And then you have Dubai, which is basically open up with arms, has a very pro-migration sort of sentiment and position. And I think one leads to the other. So it's a big melange of reason that resonates. And on top of all of that is obviously the brand that comes out. And when I moved here 6 years ago, even my best friends were saying, you're going to Dubai, but you want to avoid taxes, right? So there was always this sort of underlying condition. There was always like a relativity to the reason behind it. You needed to find a negative aspect about it. Women are not allowed to drive cars, right? I mean, it's all not true. But now that has also shifted, right? So it has really become that maybe one and only aspirational city country that people admire to be at because it established itself as a super brand.
You said so much there that I want to come back to and ask questions about, but maybe I will ask about the tax, like how much of the appeal is tax driven for starters? And then I want to come back to some of the other points you mentioned.
Well, I think it depends on who you ask, right? I mean, reality is, yes, indeed, there's no income tax, right? There's no wealth tax. There's no capital gains tax. All of these normal consideration that you have maybe in other markets, they don't exist here. Yes, you have corporate tax. Yes, you have VAT. And that on the surface maybe makes people feel like, oh, it's a low tax jurisdiction. True. But there are, if you live here, if you run your business here, there are secondary taxes, as I like to call them, right? There's nothing for free here, right? So there's the irony that when you register your car, you actually pay 3 times the tax, which in other markets, like for instance in Germany or Switzerland or in the UK even, you would pay only once, and it's basically not going into various different government entities, right? So maybe it's a bit of a misconception, but bottom line is, yes, it's a very let's say, tax light jurisdiction. Yeah. And if you come here as a professional or as a business builder, you do not have to worry about particular these things that matter for very wealthy people, such as, particularly inheritance tax wealth transfer and all of these things. So yes, that's true. But things cost money here.
You mentioned the UK, and that's actually in part why we're doing this episode, because over in the UK, you talk to anybody, they've either met somebody or they either know somebody who's moving to Dubai or they're thinking of moving to Dubai. It's a real trend in the UK. And so I became very fascinated about that. And that's what, really want to understand. Where else are people coming from? Like if you could go by, say, the top 4 or 5 countries, and why are people leaving those countries and what are they finding in Dubai?
The UK has always been a very strong cohort here in Dubai. It's not new, right? There were people coming here, whether it's professionals early on and working in the IFC, setting it all up, businesses. Let's talk about pilots, So there's a variety of audience teachers, a variety of audiences that, have, even from a language perspective, just some affinity. It's bilingual here at the end of the day, right? But what happened is, I think the acceleration of that, and I think I would say maybe the diversification of communities coming. So again, let's look back maybe, 2018, 2019. Yes, the largest community is probably from India, the subcontinent, to wider extent, Pakistan, Middle East. And that was like the majority. And then you had smaller brackets, a few Europeans like myself, but over the past 4, 5, 3, 2 years, which is reflected in the model that we explained about those high net worth individuals, with the policy changes that the UAE and Dubai have been doing, easy to get visas, easy company formation, golden visa, very accessible, even given to, scientists and people who create value to the community. That really sort of got people from all parts of the world. So I will say, at the moment, what I'm seeing is you probably hear 226 languages speaking at every corner. And it's not anymore that you have this one large country that sort of flocks to Dubai. We have Americans coming over. We have Canadians coming over. The South Americans coming over. So it is a little bit, not that I've been around back then, but if I would draw an example to it, that's how I envisioned Manhattan 200 years ago, right? The chips are coming with the people seeking a new life, seeking a new chapter, and from all parts of the world. And I think it's a little bit similar. In fact, they also built the towers. So, the analogy might actually work well.
The expat angle is so interesting because what I understand that something like 92% of people living in Dubai today are expats. And that's so right. How does that work? Is it an ethnic mosaic or is it a melting pot? Do all these different cultures get together?
It's number one, it's beautiful to see because it is just some social fabric, no matter where you come from, no matter what you believe in. It is just so respectful. It's orchestrated. And it's based also on the foundations of the country, right? It's sort of constitutional code, right? No one is above the law. That's very, very, very strong. And that's what people like, right? But I think, yes, you have majority of expats here. You have all sorts of ethnicities, who are openly in how they live their life. And it is a matter just of respect, how to cope with these things. So you see, very traditional people walking through the mall, and then, people who are just tourists in their flip-flops and in their shorts, right? And it goes hand in hand. Of course, there are certain things that, require respect, and require a little bit, let's say, yeah, I think, when you're on the beach, Venice Beach maybe has a different sort of,
okay.
Portrayal of people than here. Having said that, as a Westerner myself and speaking to people and advising these families to come here, nobody's missing anything. Right. And in terms of, one of the biggest misconceptions maybe that, people have who have transiting only through Dubai or have never really been here for a long time, right? Yeah, it's a Muslim country. Yes, Islam is here. It's very well respected. It's part of the DNA, obviously. But there's a synagogue here in the UAE, right? There are churches in Dubai. People celebrate Christmas. You have Diwali, which is the largest Indian celebration, right, in the year. And everybody somehow, sort of celebrates it together. And I think that makes it very powerful because the level of tolerance and respect at the end of the day is so strong that you do not have any fractions, right? And I would say, if I talk to my clients, at the end of the day, it comes from upstairs, from leadership. What you believe in is what you do at home. But we are a country and we are stronger together. So let's focus on that instead of, maybe wasting energy and things on
elements that are maybe more for people in their private capacity.
The polarization that we're seeing in many other Western countries.
Massively, yeah.
And is that one of the things people are looking to leave behind? Do you hear that from clients?
The reason, from my point of view as a practitioner, right, the majority of people are coming here because if they analyze the circumstances they are in for their specific situation, the UAE, Dubai is just a better choice. A lot of people are driven by the fact that they're scared for their children. We talk about knife crime in the UK, right? We talk about social inclusion, exclusion, maybe a little bit extremism when it comes to certain, the gender component that you see in the United States and whatnot. And clients are concerned about that. And then you add this economic outlook and the prosperity and the GDP growth to it. And the fact that you can come here and you can live, a fantastic life. It's an infrastructure that I don't think you have anywhere in the world. Let me talk about that for a second, right? You have one of the largest ports here. You have incredible highways. You have, soon we're going to fly in taxis. You have an airport that connects you to any part of the world. In fact, the government made an announcement about 1.5 years ago to build a new airport because the one we have is not big enough, with like extraordinary numbers to be the world's busiest successful airport, having up to 280 million passengers a year. So all of these things make just the I would say the opportunity to create value, maintain value, protect your family, protect your assets, I think just more superior than sticking back in Germany, where I'm from, where you have a little bit of an economic depression. In fact, you do. You have maybe not a positive sentiment. You don't have this can-do attitude. You come here and everybody's pulling up the sleeves, gets into the grind and get things done with a smile on the face. And I think that is maybe pulling people. So it's a mix of a lot of things, but the positivity, like literally the sun is shining every day and I hate it. I like rain, but the sky is always blue and the sun is always shining. And in some way, I think that stands for this sort of current chapter that the UAE and Dubai have in terms of nation building, city building, and attracting these people.
Well, the numbers don't lie. And Dubai clearly has a lot to offer people who want to come and build a business and build a life. But before you think the Dubai Development Authority sponsored this episode, I promise you we get to some of the drawbacks. I pressed Philippe about the challenges of living in Dubai, in addition to the fact that it's 45 degrees Celsius in the summertime.
Of course, nothing in life is ever perfect, right? And there are tangible things that I guess get all citizens and all residents sometimes, a little bit annoyed.
Right.
Of course, one side of this massive influx of more people coming is that the infrastructure has to continue to grow. And what Dubai was once when I joined, like literally a 20-minute city, and these are really high-level luxury problems, right? Has turned, like, from a traffic perspective, sometimes into 1-hour city. Now, yeah, you compare this with London or New York, you're still good, right? But from where it came from, probably, where it came from, sort of, there's pressure. There's pressure on the system, right? We talked about schooling, right? We hear parents complaining about the school fees, being extraordinary high, in fact, to global comparison, global peers, right? So, and I think that heat is one element. Some people struggle a little bit with the geographical footprint, or let's say the natural design the UAE has. It's a desert space here, right? It's sand. We don't have, ice mountains and blue mountain lakes, and big forests where in the, for the weekend, you put stuff in your camper van and you go somewhere, and it's just something that it's just a bit more diverse and brings you this, green air type of thing that's good for your well-being. On the other hand, desert also is very awesome at night, and particularly in winter, because it can also be utterly beautiful. So, but I think one of the challenges that people have here is that it can be a lonely place, right? I think, people come here to do something. People who are coming here for good, for a time to, get their head down and pull up their sleeves, they are on their own mission, right? They want to create business value. And that means, if I may exaggerate for a fact, you don't come here to hang out, right? So people move in these beautiful villas and gated communities, but they're there, go to work, come home, play with the kids, on the weekend, and all of a sudden the weather's every day the same. It's always sunshine, it's perfect, and a year passes by. Mm-hmm. So the absence of seasons also makes it sometimes difficult to sort of, I don't, how should I say this, maybe feel a little bit how time passes by. So
Yeah.
what I hear from people is that, Dubai can be, from that perspective, a lonely place, because consider it being just a 24/7 conference room where people are just running from one place to the other, trying to find another opportunity, right? So it creates, from that perspective, sometimes lighter relationships than long-term deep relationships. Of course, you build friendship here and whatnot, but what I hear, and I can witness this myself, most of my friends I have are still not from Dubai or from this region. They are from where I came from.
Yeah.
Right? That makes any sense.
What about security within the region? I mean, one of the things, the airspace was shut down over Dubai earlier this spring. Do people worry about that?
Depends who you ask. I think it's fair to say that obviously people are concerned when we had the missile ping pong.
Yeah.
From my point of view, and maybe that's relevant for your audience, I look at it a little bit more from a wider spectrum. The tension is not new. The Middle East, it's in the DNA of the Middle East to have some extent fraction. Now, what happened over the past 2-3 years is a little bit uncharted territory, but the UAE particularly is an ally to the world. It literally has, if I may say that, just simply only friends. And in fact, what's quite interesting, I saw a report the other day about FDI influx. And when we talk about millionaires coming or wealthy people coming to the UAE, the UAE is, after the US, the second largest FDI influx country. And I find this, from an economic size.
Sorry, what's FDI?
Foreign direct investment, right? So the capital that comes from all parts of the world into this country to be, used for projects, to access the capital markets, to be in M&A activities, and sort of maybe building a wider regional footprint, that they always start from the UAE, from either Abu Dhabi or Dubai. So that's where this small little country of 10 million people is ranked number 2 after the US. That's extraordinary. So from that perspective, there's a substance in the UAE that countries will want to protect, because they protect their assets. And you have in the Middle East, significant US military presence. The UAE has an extraordinary sought after military capacities. From a conflict perspective, it's not nice what's going on. It doesn't have real direct impact, unless the airspace closure we had, where if I can be casual, allow me, will say that certain people made some phone calls and asked the question, do you have any idea how much that cost? Keep in mind those airlines and those hubs are government owned, right? So if you close the airspace for Qatar Airways, I think that's quite a significant bill someone has to pay for. And, there's economic reasons, I think, that will drive us to more stability than stress over the coming years. I mean, people are here. Nobody has left. No deals have stopped, right? In fact, it's just increasing. Now, that doesn't mean that things are going the right way as it should be right now. But I think it's those who come here and realize how things work out, get the code right, they also understand that, this is not a country that is exposed to military risks.
As Philippe helps families make informed choices about relocating to Dubai, one of the tools on the table is the Golden Visa program. And a few years ago, the government lowered the minimum investment requirement, making it even easier for foreign investors to secure long-term residency in Dubai. Philippe describes the program as it stands today.
That's where they reduced massively the financial thresholds for the investor visa, Golden Visa, which is now, a 2 million dirham, which is about $550,000. And they continue to actually change that to make it even wider. So people got nominated if they have good academic background or they are a certain business leader, just to ensure that what we talked about at the very early beginning, right? People feel here, this is my place. I belong here, and I'm not going to go anywhere. In fact, I will bring everything I have here. I open more bank accounts, I put more assets in there, and build this sort of wealth and that asset, that estate in Dubai, instead of being just here a temporary, long-term businessman, which maybe was before. So, and I think that is what is so appealing. And, the Dubai Golden Visa, I can tell you this, is now within the industry the benchmark. I mean, it takes 7 to 10 days to get it. If you think about it, you go to Germany or go to the US for that matter, right? You go to Canada, you want to set up a business, want to qualify for permanent residence. We talk about years, right? It's not a quick fix. You can come here, could be done in 7, 10 days. That's extraordinary.
it has been extraordinarily successful in attracting massive numbers of wealth. And, as I mentioned at the outset, 6,700 last year. But the stats I'm looking at as of 2025, there were 72,500 millionaires, 212 centimillionaires, and 15 billionaires in Dubai. So, I can't help wonder, are we too late? Is the real estate boom, the economic boom already happened? Is it cresting? What do you see?
Great question. If I would have, the crystal ball, no, but I can give you my observation. One of the aspects that probably is on one side maybe a risk, on the other side an opportunity. If you compare Dubai to, let's say, central London, here's just more space, right? So you can create more assets. And I think one of the elements that I'm fascinated about, and I think it will go into the history books, right? I mean, this real estate story is basically converting sand into an asset. All of a sudden, this plot of sand, there's a 50, 80-story tower, and it's sold to people. And all of a sudden, you had like 5 years ago, a plot of land with sand on it, and then it becomes a multi-million-dollar asset. So it's fascinating. And this story continues. And I think I'm a property owner here. I was very hesitant because I was critical about the market, but I realized to think that there's a certain critical mass that has been established. And when we talk about being of relevance to the international community for soft power purposes, for access to the wider region, for reliable business directions and all of these things that make the UAE so attractive, I think it's not too late. I would encourage people to come in. I would disencourage people to follow real estate advice on Instagram, if I can be controversial, because it is so heated right now that people also try to just make a quick buck. But if you have good advice, if you take your time, if you come here, look around a little bit, familiarize yourself with, what does work for you and what does not work, it is a great place to have a property, whether it's for retirement, because that might be the next chapter of Dubai's growth, I think, UAE's growth, for, a holiday home, for a family estate. Dubai is going to maintain its position as one of the top 5, may I say that, top 5 international hubs that people admire to. And, those wealthy families that we have, they have already a diversified real estate portfolio with, their base, 1 or 2 holiday homes and 1 as an investment. And maybe that is where, Dubai can add value to.
Fascinating stuff, really. Thank you so much for doing this deep dive. As I said, I've been curious about what's going on there. I have not been there yet myself, but it is definitely on the list. And you've helped pique my curiosity further. Last couple of questions. As you know, at the end of every podcast, I like to ask my guests a few questions about wealth. And you have this super interesting perspective because, of course, you're seeing wealth from international perspective. So I'll ask you the first question. Who is someone that you admire in terms of how they handle their wealth?
That's a fascinating question. And I think I admire people. I mean, I come across, because of the job, I come across people who do have sometimes insane amount of financial wealth. Maybe not so much wealth in other departments, whether it's health, whether it's maybe character, maybe whether it's about approach of life. And it's difficult to, judge someone. It's not our right to judge someone. But if you ask me who I would admire those who are wealthy and utilize their wealth at their own terms, instead of maybe becoming a prisoner of wealth and sort of maybe finding themselves on the wrong side on what wealth really can be. I mean, I wish I would know what it means to have $263 billion in wealth. I will never know, but I can't imagine that brings you any more happiness or any more life satisfaction than maybe, let's say, 1 billion, which is already so insane, right? There are only so few people in the world. So I admire those who maybe have a good reflection of that. And I can tell you, I have some clients who are very, very rich, and the way how they negotiate me on fees, it's I hate it. I really hate it, and I love it because it really stands for a little bit of an appreciation of what they have accomplished, and still, 2 feet on the ground, and not like, losing
Not
touch
throwing it
to
around, treating money
kind
with
of. So
respect.
yes, that's a little bit what I admire. So those who really don't get used by the wealth, but rather use it. That's maybe the right way to look at it.
Lovely. People learn and develop their beliefs about money in many different ways, but one of the most fundamental ways is through our families of origin. And so I'm curious about what messages you received about wealth when you were growing up within your family.
Oh, that's a very personal question. So I didn't grow up in a family in that extent. My parents divorced very early on. I lost my father when I was like 16 years of age, and I do not come from private schools. So a little bit self-made, if that, in all humbleness. So I know what it means to not have money, and I know what it means to see kids going on great holidays, coming back with new sneakers after a school break, and you are, feeling a little bit embarrassed that you can't compete. So, and maybe that is, as probably a lot of people will say, it's a bit of movie content here, but maybe one of the good schools to go through, that you have a certain level of appreciation, maybe a bit more appreciation, or maybe even not. I don't know. It's difficult to talk about something what I would do if you never did. So but I think what I learned with wealth is that or financial wealth, going to differentiate maybe a little bit, is that it can be used in great ways. It can give you a lot of freedom of things. It even maybe can buy you time. If you think, if you have certain financial freedom, you can do things that matter and are priority in your life, and you maybe can do them exactly at that time. And for me, that would be maybe, buying time in some way or form, but it also comes with such a responsibility, doesn't it? I think wealth, it obliges you to use it also in a very respectful and a meaningful way. And that doesn't mean you need to run your own charity, but first of all, for yourself, right? Don't go out and just splash yourself bling bling only, right? Spend it on things that really put a smile on your face and have higher meaning and give you a little bit more purpose. And I guess, for those who maybe have just bling bling as a purpose, okay, then my advice is irrelevant. But I guess, for someone like me, that's how I see it.
Well, that's why we have this podcast, is to help people be more aware and more intentional about how they spend their money, how they invest it, how they give it away, just generally how they steward it. And it's by having these conversations. So thank you for that really personal and honest perspective. Last question, very quickly then. To me, if you would finish this sentence, to me, money is?
To me, money is a device that helps sometimes to make life a little bit easier. And I withstand hard sometimes to not make my life more miserable.
Thanks very much to Philippe Amarante for shedding light on why so many wealthy families are choosing Dubai as their new home base. From lifestyle perks to golden visa opportunities, it's clear Dubai is more than just a stopover. It's become a magnet for global wealth. And if you want to find out more, you can visit Henley Partners' website. We put a link in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode of Serious Coin, make sure to follow the show so you never miss a conversation about wealth, lifestyle, and the choices that shape both.
Serious Coin is provided for your general interest only, and nothing we discuss should be taken as investment, tax, legal, or professional advice. Always talk to a licensed professional before you make any financial decision.